Hello, and welcome to Journeys into Being, a new show co-produced by Amherst Media. My name is Renata Sylvia Pienkawa, and I'm your host. This program will focus not on doing, but on being, not on accomplishments, but on the joy of being fully present, not on what many people call success, but on our ability to be in flow, to be connected to each other and to the world through our very presence. Welcome, Carlos. Thank you so much for coming to Amherst Media and also to be willing to talk with us. And just to ease us into the process of interviewing, what object did you bring today that would reveal something important about you?
Okay. A book.
Awesome.
Yeah. This is a book by my favorite poet in the English language.
Oh, wow.
He goes by the name of David White.
Great.
And born in England, and he's English and Irish. And right now, he has been living in the States for a long time. He lives in the West Coast. And he in the English language, he's my favorite poet. In the Spanish language, my favorite poet is Pablo Neruda. Yeah, two different lines of work, but beautiful work. Yeah.
And especially what message or imagery that really work for you with this poet?
Well, he had been called a poet-philosopher. And he does some work that I never seen before in terms of the self. He writes poetry that just really touches you. You know, I mean, this is a poetry that sometimes I end up crying when I read a poem. So yeah, I get emotional with his writing. He talks about, he has written a lot. Unfortunately though, his work hasn't been translated to Spanish.
Wow.
He has been translated to the language, but
and Pablo Neruda is published often in both.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
what do you love about Pablo Neruda?
Whoa. I remember when I discovered him, so things about love and loving, he was good at that. He really wrote. And then about his life experiences, how he experienced life, and also his political background in terms of he was somebody known to be a socialist.
Yes.
And
yes.
Anyway, so yeah, there are two different poetic worlds, but at the end, both are great crafter of the written word.
Yes, and I know with Pablo Neruda, I love him too. I don't know much Spanish, but I can hear the melody of the language when I look at it, or when I sometimes on YouTube when I hear somebody reciting in Spanish. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
So my first question is maybe to kind of get to the bottom of or begin your beginnings. We were talking in this program. We're talking about being present.
Yes.
So in a way, we'll be talking about here and now, but to kind of get to know a person better, we need to know some of the roots.
Right.
So my question is, where did you grow up? And by that I mean, the first 10, 20 years of your life.
Okay, great. I was born in a small town in Colombia toward the west side of the country. And it was a small town, like a typical third world country town. We had the basic infrastructure, but things were coming to us very slowly.
Yes.
For example, the television came to us. I remember I was a kid and watching TV with my neighbor. That was a wow.
What was the first program you remember you were watching?
I don't remember.
Were they the Spanish language, or were they coming from the United States?
You know this very well.
Yes.
TV came with the USA and translation of all the shows.
Like
Later on,
Bonanza, for example. Yeah, I
later
watched
on,
Bonanza.
later when television got better in terms of color and stuff like that, so we were able to see more programs.
Yes.
We saw. I remember seeing Batman, Bonanza.
Yes.
Who else? There are kind of shows that I saw when I was.
Did you watch Hitchcock? Maybe I remember we used to watch Hitchcock movies.
That was later.
Yes.
That was later. But the thing that I remember when I was probably 14, 15 was that there was some local TV show, and they were sort of like a copycat of the USA show
Right.
for rock and roll and stuff like that. So it was kind of. It always have been like that, though.
Right, right.
That the USA is such a force in terms of cultural directive.
Yes, absolutely.
There's something about this country that fascinates me, like how they dictate things to the world, and sometimes Americans are not even aware about how everybody copies the USA.
Yes. Yes.
Every new trend, they go right behind it.
Right.
So
right.
I didn't know that then.
Oh, yes.
Because I was watching the shows, and I remember enjoying some shows that really were good TV shows.
Yep.
Nice stories,
Right.
Nice,
Good storytelling.
Oh,
right?
yeah. So, but then later, there was a point where my family moved to one middle-sized town. Like it was like a middle-sized city. And then, like everybody else in the third world country, everybody highest aspiration is to go to the capital. So I went to the capital, and by that time I was in middle school. I finished my middle school, high school years, and then I went to college. But by that time I was in my early 20s, and I remember.
So you went to college in Bogota?
In Bogota, yeah. So, but at that time I was serious into reading, and loving poetry and stuff like that. Yeah, awesome. I remember that. Yeah, but basically that was where, I left the country when I was 24 years old.
And why did you leave? What made you leave?
That's a long story. I was born in a country that was having a civil war. I didn't know that. And I discovered that later in life, that there was a lot of violence. And the country has a long history of violence. Even after a few years ago, the strongest force, the rebels, signed up peace with the government. There are still some pockets where people who did not sign are active. So now that I'm older and my understanding about the world affairs is better, I can see how some people make choices in terms of their life, and they become something that they don't even know what they're doing. So when I don't read that much news about Colombia, but once in a while I check to see what's happening. And what surprises me is always violence. There's always, whether it's in the countryside or in the city, or whether it's,
And your family, were you kind of like just a typical family, pretty much in the middle of the social strata, or were you a little bit more protected, a little bit more privileged
than
really. An average?
No, not really. I think that we were probably lower middle class, something like that, a working class family. And there was times that it was a little bit difficult for everybody. Although I had to tell you that my mother was big on education.
So how did you go to, was education free, or did you have to pay for it? How did you end up in college coming from lower middle class?
I think that public education for K to 12, for example, or 11, I don't remember right now, is free. And I remember when I went to I went to a public university. The tuition was really sort of like reasonable. And I remember at that time, a friend of mine who was also in the university, but he was probably a senior. I was still learning my way around, He invited me to work with him in some project, and then I started to work with my friend, and I was making enough money, so I paid my tuition.
Wow.
And that was very cool.
That
because,
must have been very satisfying, right?
Yeah. So I wanted to be sort of like independent, though.
Right.
You know what I mean?
What
And,
did you study at that level?
I went to this university to become a teacher.
Oh, wow.
So I study. My degree is in social sciences,
Mm-hmm.
and then I have two majors that were history and geography.
Wow.
So those that was my foundation in terms
Right,
of
right.
education.
But then you got your doctorate in psychology. Was that here in the States?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That here I went to get my higher education in terms of my master and my Ph.D. When I was in Colombia, and I'm talking to you about mid-70s, they didn't have any doctoral program. Even the master was sort of like an emerging idea. There was nothing there that, and the other thing that I learned when I wanted to go to
Yes.
do a master, it was expensive.
Wow.
It was extremely expensive. So
Right.
that was prohibited. I mean, you know,
Right, right.
and it's interesting because I was contemplating the idea. I think I started to contemplate the idea at the age of 13, 14 that I wanted to be a doctor
Yes.
in something. I don't know specifically what it was.
Yes.
And then that was with me for many years. And then when I finished college and I tried to, pursue a higher degree, I found a wall
Okay.
that in some way it was complicated and it was expensive.
Right.
And I didn't have the means of
Right.
getting
right.
through the program or affording the program, paying for it. That was really out of my reach.
Right. But
Yeah.
then you came here alone or with your family, or how did you manage to
I-
save up the money to come
Well,
here?
okay, so something happened. I left the country because the political climate, especially during the college year, was very hot. It was really, people were engaging in all type of political activity, and some of my friends went to the mountains to fight.
Wow.
And I got lucky that I talked to some professors about the whole thing, and they gave me good advice.
Yes.
They told me that not everybody's a soldier.
Right.
You know?
Right.
We need people like you who are
Right.
into
Who are thinkers.
who are into poetry, beauty,
Yes.
and you have the gift of teaching.
Right.
So you don't have to. That was very helpful.
That's
So
awesome.
that was very helpful. So I left the country and I went to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And in Mexico, which was Mexico was a great experience. And the reason that I left Mexico was that the Mexican government, took over the banks. So everybody who has saving in American dollars lost a lot. And I have everything that I had, which I earned working and going to school at the same time, the combination. I lost a lot of
Wow.
money. So then I made a decision that I couldn't stay in the country, and I
Right.
came to America.
Wow.
So
what city did you come to or place first?
I went to New York,
Okay.
to New York City, and after being in the country for 2 years, I went to get a master's degree at Hunter College, and the master was in guidance counseling, and in that program, I became very close to a professor, an African American professor. And he said to me, "Are you interested in being a doctor?" And I told him the story
Yes.
since I was 12, 14, I wanted
Right,
to do that,
right.
and that's the story. He had he had a contact here at UMass, and I came, and I remember coming here to this town and seeing the downtown,
Yes.
and a voice said to me, "This is home for you. This is where you
Wow.
belong." And I was like, "Wow!" And I was really surprised because I was living in New York before,
Right.
and if you go to Central Park, that's
Yes.
the closest that you get to nature.
Right. Right. But you
Yeah.
came here to Amherst
I came to Amherst
for your doctorate.
for my doctoral program, right?
Wow.
I came and I went to talk to this person, this contact who was finishing her doctorate degree. This
Right.
person, and then she introduced me to people in the program, and then I said, I'm gonna go there. So
Is this place reminding you at all of Colombia, or just nature? So much
Yes.
nature, so many farms that
So
were.
right. I spent I don't know how many years living in Bogota. And Bogota is a third world country city. I mean,
Still now too.
it's just, and after living in Mexico, Mexico, the capital is something. It's just whoa. I never seen so many people in my life. Talking the subway was an adventure.
Yes.
Super crowded.
Yes.
So and then living in New York was interesting though. But in New York, I was always busy working, and going to school. So I came here. I think that coming to this park, it gave me some feeling of peace and quiet. There was no traffic. There was no noise.
Right.
That you always had that in the cities. And then I said to myself, this is the place. I'm going to come here.
Awesome.
And I moved to this area in 1989, and I never left.
And has this transition, from being an immigrant to a full-fledged American and professional, has that been challenging, or has that been joyous, or a little of both?
I think, no, that's a good question. I never thought about that. I think that the whole idea had been, or the whole experience had been something that now unclear. Now unclear in the sense that it had been a gradual process. When I came to New York in 1982, I never thought that I was about to be an American citizen.
Right.
I never thought that I was about to get married and have a family in the United States.
Right.
And
how soon after did you meet your wife? After
we met at Hunter College when she was also getting the master's degree.
Oh wow!
So that's when we connected, and we kind of been seeing each other for many years. So it had been, because when I came to America, I was still, my mother was still alive, and my mother was a very strong force that once in a while brought me back to visit. But gradually, I was feeling like my relationship to the motherland and the connection to the country was in some way easing. It was getting to the point where I feel that I could easily detach. And the complete detachment came the day that my mother passed away.
What year was that? About what?
Probably 19. That was a while ago. I don't remember, but
10, 20 years ago?
Something close to that. Close to that.
So the kids were still at home?
No, I am the youngest in my family.
Oh,
my oldest brother is 87.
Oh, okay.
So no, everybody had their life. They had their family. They were all married. So
yes. So she was living alone when she passed away?
No, she was living with one of my sisters. My mother still experienced the old country tradition where your parents age at home.
Right.
And that's sort of like you don't question that. I mean, this is something like, it's the culture, it's the tradition, and when your time comes to do it, you do it graciously. You don't fight this. And again, I don't want to generalize, but in America, you might find different levels of that type of reality.
Absolutely, yeah. So do you feel like your background still very much informs who you are, or not so much anymore? Because since you have kind of, by now, you sort of...
that's a very good question. Sometimes I think that I developed two self. The Colombian self that got to a stop when I came to America, and the American self that was born the day that I began to integrate myself into
that's very
this society.
Poetic, very beautiful. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So one more thing that I have to tell you that I never have an issue when I got here and I started to participate, working, going to school, whatever. I was very clear that I was about to embrace this.
Right. Wow. So it was a conscious decision.
It was a conscious decision
to embrace it.
Yeah, to embrace it.
Do you feel like after when your mom passed away, that's when your Colombian self died? too?
I think that's the right way to put it, Renata. I think that was the end of that part of my life.
Wow.
Granted though, I had to tell you that you never erase your past
Of course.
unless that you have some kind of traumatic event and your memories are erased. But for the most part, that past in some way inform you, and even if you forget, it will come to visit you in your dreams.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
In the moment that you don't expect it, it comes to you
Right.
and remind you
Right.
that there is a past.
Yes.
That the definition, your current definition, will not be possible without that part of you that's in the
Wow.
past. You know?
Wow. Wow.
Granted, I want to be clear about this. The past doesn't determine who you become.
Mm-hmm.
The past informs who
Mm-hmm.
you have become. That's a different thing, though. you know?
Important distinction.
Yeah,
Yes.
right. Yeah.
So now that you have been an American for a long while, what's most essential to you in your life now, and why?
What is most essential in my life? I think that the most essential in my life is my family.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my wife, my girls.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's key.
Right.
Yeah. And also, the other thing that I had to mention to you, I love what I have done as a professional.
So that was going to be my next question. What is your calling in life, and is it the same as your profession or occupation?
When I came to New York, I went to a master program. I discovered something that I haven't seen before because my initial my first training in terms of education was to become a teacher. So I knew techniques about how to teach a class, how to manage discipline, whatever. But when I went to learn about counseling, it was a different experience because the counselor had the ability to work one-to-one with kids rather than having a class of 25 or 27
Right,
students,
right.
which your attention is so divided in terms of you make sure that everybody's included in the teaching, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
But the counselor had this luxury that they can develop relationship with kid who need somebody,
Mm-hmm.
a trusting adult in their life, and that was new to me. That was something, and the more that I learned, I said to myself, I had to get better at this. I need to be in a position where I can be really effective, you know. So that's what the idea of the PhD really, in some way, come together.
Right.
It's sort of like finally, all the part come together, and I said, that's it. I need to have a PhD, and that way my knowledge will be probably greater and deeper, and the possibility of not making necessarily, but the idea of being able to touch, to do outreach to kids who were in need. That in part what I like about my profession. Although in my professional life I work in psychiatric hospitals and I work in community-based clinic. But I think that my love all the time have been schools.
But a counselor, right? Because I'm sure you had moments when you were teaching the whole group, but
Right.
it's the counseling, it's the one-to-one
Right.
that makes
and
sense.
there's something special about that. And the other thing that I really like is about how a counselor, the role of the counselor is so important that sometimes a child have a chance to do something that hasn't happened before, and find a space and a person who really cares about the child. You know, something that I seen that in action though. I used to do supervision with counselors before in the past, but it's always, you know. But again, though, I think at the end of the day, everything comes together, and it's just being of service and helping those who need to be helped. You know.
And did you find a lot of children who never had a chance to have someone listen to them with understanding and compassion, or most kids are already getting this from other people and their parents, or are many children not really able to get this type of understanding and listening from a lot of people? Was this?
Well, it's interesting what you're asking, because in America, for example, it has a lot to do in terms of resources.
Mm-hmm.
If you work on the poor district, chances are they don't even have even a guidance counselor or a school counselor or adjustment counseling because they don't have the money to hire.
Wow.
Yeah, that's they are the first one, and the music and the art department are the first one to go.
Mm-hmm.
And without, I'm not going to say without understanding, they know what they're doing, but the thing is that they are bureaucrats,
Right.
Taking money where the money is needed.
Right. Right.
So I think even in the wealthy districts, you might have kids who have parents who are, big shot, big names, but never had time for the kids.
Right. Right. Yes.
So they always surrogates workers doing the role of parents. So
Right.
a kid like that sometimes develop a connection with a teacher or a counselor
Exactly.
because those are the two who are really unseeing the child.
Hmm.
And and then you have the other extreme, which is poor district where parents are so overwhelmed with so many things, so many demands, and nobody pays
Yes.
attention to the child. But then, some kid, like anything else, some kid have issues that they tend to show those issues in the school.
Mm-hmm.
And my philosophy, not my philosophy, but my understanding is that when a child is misbehaving, is because there's something that this child needs to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, depending on the age, sometimes there's not the language. They don't have the language that is needed, but then they have behavior that
Right.
speak the language of, a cry for help.
Right. Right.
And nowadays, for example, you know that because you used to work
Yes.
public school.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
the demands are greater. I mean, the challenges are greater, and I don't think the school have become almost like a social services agency.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
I know we kind of closed the chapter about Colombia, but just this question came to mind. So when you were, let's say, 10 years old, were there counselors that you could
No.
listen to you?
No.
And were the children having all these issues?
No.
So how come the children, country was poor, but they didn't have, it wasn't maybe poor in the attention of the parents? Why they didn't have the issues that children have nowadays?
Right. I'm going to give you a sort of like a naive answer.
Mm-hmm.
Probably there were different times, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
I that's my guess.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing I want to tell you is that even as we speak today, sometimes countries, the third world countries, don't have the infrastructure that is needed in order to provide services that are so essential. So you know what I mean? So I remember when I was in middle high school, I have access to counselor, but the counseling was mainly career counseling.
Right. So very
and
practical.
Was practical, and that again the Americans' influence
Right.
about career, the
Yes.
career path.
Yes.
But the socio-emotional piece wasn't there. And to be honest with you, when I think about the high school, my high school year was the best year of my life. I really loved my high school.
What was so great about it?
And that's a good question. That I had my first grade my first girlfriend in high school. That's something important. But the thing about relationship.
Yes.
And I also was into acting.
Oh wow.
And I think that I was becoming
Right.
a young adult.
You were spreading your wings as a young adult.
Exactly.
Wow.
And then I got teachers who were really, really fantastic. They challenged me to read stuff, to discuss with them. And I was so motivated with that. I was so inspired by these people. So, to be honest with you, I don't recall in the 70s in those schools having somebody with behavioral problems. I don't remember that. It was not an issue. Again,
it was very rare too. I
very
don't
rare.
remember much.
I don't know if you
at that
experienced the
time.
same
Yeah,
when
similar.
you were
Yeah.
in your homeland.
There would be like practical things that, oh my God, a girl at 8, in high school, maybe last year of high school, got pregnant,
Yeah.
or maybe, a person would be coming in dirty, they didn't have the care at home, but nothing like, disrespect to
Right.
to the status quo and to the
Right.
teachers and the friends, also the kids were kind of had some solidarity between them.
And the other thing that was also really now that I'm older, I can see back how clean we were. Nobody was doing drugs. Yeah, there was somebody who always had a joint, but we knew
or a
everybody
cigarette.
knew who he was, though, right?
Right.
But he was not spreading the gospel of marijuana.
Right.
You know?
Right. No. And also, we didn't have, of course, social media.
Right.
Phones and
exactly.
all that stuff was in real life. Happening, parties and friends.
So I remember that. I remember, for example, going to parties, and they were very clean. A beer. That was the high thing, was having a beer. My goodness.
Yes. And
but no hardcore drug or anything like that. No, we didn't know that. You know what I mean? But
wow.
So yeah, I think those years, in high school, probably the last year of high school was the year where I grew really intellectually the most. I was reading stuff that I read stuff that I didn't understand, but I read it.
Or you understood differently than now.
Yeah, with a 17, 18 years old mentality.
Exactly.
But now, sometimes I kind of laugh about that because that right now, for example, personally and professionally, I am into creating habits. And that was one of the greatest habits that I ever developed. My love to reading. It's just, it was just amazing, though. I mean, yeah.
Would you want to read us a poem from your book? Is there a poem you'd like to read?
Actually, this is a book. There's the second one is coming. It's called Consolations, and these are sort of like a
poetic prose.
Prose, but it's like he does justice to words.
Yes.
For example,
can you read us a passage?
Sure. Is for example here, word like alone, anger, ambition, beauty, confession, courage. So that's why that is so incredible. So I'm gonna read. I just happen to be here. Gratitude is not a passive response to something we have been given. Gratitude arises from paying attention, from being awake in the presence of everything that lives within and without us. Gratitude is not necessarily something that is shown after the event. It is deep, a priority. A priori state of attention that shows we understand and are equal to the gifted nature of life. Wow.
Yes, it's a whole meditation in this, right?
It's just
deeper.
So there was a time where I had this by my bedside. And after I did everything, I just opened random page and, and then said, oh my God. So he has an incredible ability. So I'm going to share something with you randomly this page.
Okay.
Self-knowledge. It's not fully possible for human beings. We don't reside in a body, a mind, or a world where it's achievable. Or from the point of being interesting, even desirable. Half of what lies in the heart and mind is potentiality. Oh my goodness, I don't have my glasses, Renata.
Right.
Human beings are always and always will be a frontier between what is known and what is not known.
Wow.
So anyway,
that's fantastic. Because with gratitude too, we're always being told, "Oh, be grateful," but it's really about paying attention, about being present. That connection is never made really when we talk about gratitude. It's almost like trying to make us feel guilty. We do have so much.
Yeah.
But it is about paying attention. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
No. I'm listening to you because there is something interesting. And I know this from psychology. Human cannot function without attention. We have in the country an epidemic of ADHD. But put aside the thing with the ADHD, people who don't have the condition go into life without paying attention. And you need to pay attention because if you want to be kind, then you have to see the kindness in action. If you want to be benevolent, then you want to see the gift given without any expectation. So there are things of that nature that is amazing to me. I mean, I got to the point right now in my life where I can connect things. You know what I mean? And my spirituality and how my spirituality translate into loving somebody. Or my love translate into being kind and generous with the world, and also having a sense of contentment and content. You know, when my kid asks me, "What do you want for your birthday?" Whatever, a smile will do. You know, something simple. Write me a little line. That's it. But I don't want any more material goods because I have enough.
Right.
More than I can possibly have.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
And this is a, well, I don't know if we are deviating a little bit from the question, but one of the ironies of my life have been that I grew up in a place where there were limitations in terms of goods, the material good.
Right.
And then I ended up living in the country that has the most incredible ability to consume.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So I went.
It's just shocking, right? Shocking that.
I went from a place of not having to the place of having too much. So, and this is something that I always remember because as we speak, Renata, they are part of the world where people are barely having a meal a day.
Right.
So that we start, I mean, I can see that all the time. And sometimes before I eat, I bless my food because I'm so blessed.
Right.
So lucky.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that I'm reaching the stage of my life that it's the time of giving away.
Right.
You know,
right.
Give because you don't need that much.
Right.
You
So
know?
with your, because I know you are working, so with people you work with, is it, are the gifts material or are they gifts of spirit or both in your job?
Yeah,
right
one of the things that I do is that there are not too many professionals who look like me, sound like me around here.
Even in Amherst, right? It's
even
still
in Amherst, right?
rare.
There might be like 3 or 4, and that's a large number. You find probably more in Boston or in New York. But here I'm one of the very few, which in some way, to me, one of the biggest, I won't say, it's a gift that finally I'm working with a community that look like me and sound like me, and I can bring something where my knowledge could be helpful for a child's well-being, child education, for a family to get answer to questions that sometimes they don't get.
Right.
That's one of the biggest joy of my life in terms of being of service, and doing that, using the little that I know to help.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
So just going back to the question, calling in life, would you say it is serving and teaching?
It is serving and teaching, but it's something that the calling is always something that is never complete.
Right.
It's something that you go through life discovering. And then you get to a point, for example, and you know this very well because there's a point where everything comes together and then you are good. You're safe and you can see the problem and figure it out. You can say like, So one thing that I can enjoy right now, when I go to work, I am perhaps the oldest person in my working place. And there are young people, young professionals coming along. And one of the things that I have been doing for years is that I do pay attention to what they had to offer. And sometimes I surprise them because sometimes I am explaining a problem or something like that and somebody comes up with a wonderful idea and I stop to thank the person and say, wow, that's so important what you said. I haven't seen that one, but thank you. So that to me is so key that you have people who not only had the experience but had the skills to do stuff and they're still willing to learn for the next generation that is coming up. And you can go back and think about the time that you were just learning to do this stuff and how green you were.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
But then even in some way, unbeknown to us, the work experience was giving us the chance of growing. We keep growing all the time, but in my case, for example, probably it's also in your case because you are an outstanding teacher. I know that.
Yes.
You're a gifted teacher.
Thank you.
Is that there's a moment that you start saying, oh, there's another way.
Yes.
So, right?
Yes.
So And the good thing is that we find that, and we don't have this need to publish a book and be famous.
Right.
No.
Yes.
Let's keep it quiet.
Yep.
Let's keep it quiet.
Yep. Oh, that's such a gift too, because
Yes.
because it's that being quiet that kind of preserves that energy instead of trying to, be loud and show off.
Right.
And therefore, that energy kind of is a little bit diminished, if everybody's trying to yell,
Right.
nobody listens
Right.
and nobody learns.
Right, exactly.
And I think you're also modeling for these younger folks that there's meaning in this work without, having fame and fortune that our society is so enamored with.
One thing, I said to you this before, if you become loud, then you become distracted. And you are distracted, you're not paying attention. That's the key.
Right.
That's the key, because you're so preoccupied with being seen. You know what I mean? That you have to be somebody that people have to mention your name and stuff like that. No. If you are, the Quakers talk about faithful, that you do what you are supposed to do, then everything is okay. Everything will take care of itself. So to me, for example, one of the most, not necessarily the most, but something that I feel so, that I'm grateful. I'm grateful about that, is that to talk, I love people who are curious.
Right.
And I always associate curiosity with intelligence.
Right.
I may be wrong. Somebody might say to me, "Oh, you're wrong." Okay, I'm wrong. But I always like that I like creative people. I like and people who do things with a profound sense of humanity. They are very humble, very that you're willing to take feedback and be vulnerable with it rather than being defensive. Like, you know what I mean?
That's rare nowadays, isn't it?
No, but that's also it's a habit that you have to cultivate, though. There are things, Renata, that there's I like developmental psychologists because they have a very good explanation about the different life stages, and that not only applies for being human, but also apply for the development of your spirit as a spiritual being, right? So that you have to go through stages. You mature, and hopefully when you get to 80, you might have some wisdom.
Yes,
right?
Yes, hopefully, yes.
Yeah, hopefully
yes.
some wisdom, right? So the idea is that if you can be humble and at the same time brilliant, those are not two antagonistic ideas. I think that they complement each other. And one thing that I had this experience when I was in my doctorate program, I met professors who were really, in my eyes, brilliant, and the guys were so humble. I always was fascinated by that. So something that I learned is like people who got it, people who had the gift, they don't go into saying, "I got it."
Yes.
You show it by doing.
Yes, it's so interesting because, Arnie, my husband, always talks about musicians, that the ones who are the greatest often were the most humble of all.
Yes.
And that was amazing. You could come off the street and talk about their music, and they would talk to you just like an equal, even though they were these extremely amazing musicians. So I think it's true about other professions too.
Yeah. No, and I think that I'm convinced somebody who is gifted also had ideally, right? Because not everybody's like that. Somebody gifted is that somebody who cultivate the gift and can see how the gift could be shared with the rest of the world, with the rest of humanity. But at the same time, the gift reminds you that you are one of us, that you cannot pretend, that the person who's serving you, the person who's helping you, doesn't count. No, they do. They do count, and thanks to them, you have become who you are. I always tell people about, I remember there was a time where I was watching basketball and the Bulls, the Chicago Bulls, where the best team of the world, right?
Yes.
But there was something that I caught that game after game, and I was watching it, was that Michael Jordan was the star.
Mm-hmm.
But he was the star. But the team
Mm-hmm.
that made him the star have other players that always pass the ball to him. Because if they didn't pass the ball to Michael,
Yes.
he would have been like, ah, here,
Yes,
here, the ball,
yes.
whatever, right? But they knew that he was there, and he was also aware that he needed them in order to be the best, to be the greatest. So it's always community.
Right.
It boils
right.
down to that community, bringing community together, and finding within the community those who had the gift and those who are ready to give it up, to share it, and also those who can receive the gift.
Do you feel like, I know you're a Quaker, do you feel like you have that community within the Quaker community, that there is this give and take and kind of playing to one's strengths and passing the ball and that type of...
I think one of the things that being a Quaker has been extremely helpful to me, because I've been lucky enough to meet people who had taught me so much. They show me the way without saying to me or pointing to me. They just by being themselves. So one of the things that I really like about the Quakers is because it's the first time in my life that I feel that I have a spiritual community. I always, when I go to the meeting, I always tell that that's my spiritual home.
Right.
And everybody who's there is related to me. Is related to me. So and there are things, I'm going to link two things here. When I go to work or when I do things in the world, the first thing for me is that I'm clear that I'm a Quaker. So that my behavior, my professional behavior in some way is informed by my spiritual belief. And Quakers talk a lot about the gift of simplicity. And I value that. And I value the sense of being a part of the community that speaks about simplicity and is faithful to what we need in this world. So there are among us people who have different gifts or different ministry, and that helps in the sense that that person is with you, is a friend, is a neighbor, is somebody who might be in one of the many committees doing something for the larger community. That is not just us as a small tight group. No, it's us as well, bringing the gift of the teaching to the world. And as also something that the Buddhist is something that I like about being of service. Like you are in the world because you can do something for the world, and as my poet David White would say, and the world, you change the world and the world changes you. And it's always this dance, this beautiful conversation where you find your true self in the process of being of service.
How did you find that community? How did you discover them?
I discovered that because when my first child was born, I felt the need of having some type of spiritual house.
Okay.
Because I was what I call a spiritual homeless for many years.
And you grew up Catholic, or?
I did that, but I quit when I was like 12, 13.
Okay. Didn't make sense to you anymore?
Yeah, it didn't make sense to me anymore. And the other thing was that the third world country religion, it has a sense of a punity sense. There is always this heavy duty, the thing about
guilt,
the sin, the guilt. Yeah. So my mother, sometime I remember that, was using some of the teaching just to make us to behave. And sometimes it was scary. So sometimes he was using very strong images. So we were scared. We were scared, though.
It involved some heat and, and fire.
Yeah. So, I remember a couple of times walking around like having a hard time falling asleep.
Yes.
Somebody was coming. But then I survived that, and but I'm glad that I found the Quakers, because I think that everybody is a spiritual being.
Right.
Even when you say that you don't believe on anything, you believe on something. Even on the rock or the tree that is in front of you, in the backyard.
Right.
I think we humans are big into creating images creating explanation stories, for example.
Explanation stories.
Yeah.
By the way, I never asked you about your dad. Did you have a father too?
My father, yes, I did have a father. He was part of the process of making me. Yeah, but my mom and dad separated when I was, I think, 7 years old.
Yes.
And I saw my father very few times in my life. So the father that actually, I had surrogate fathers, and one of them was an uncle from my mother's side who was very close to me.
That was your mom's brother?
My mother's brother, yeah.
Is he still alive?
No. They are gone. My mother's family is gone. Everybody's gone, yeah. So that uncle was really great to me. He was there for me.
So he was the kind of the male model for
That's right. Yeah.
For you.
So
cool.
Yeah. I unfortunately I didn't experience what it is to have a father.
But you are a wonderful father yourself.
That's what I heard.
And yes, I know that from your daughters.
Yeah.
And the sort of the essence of this program is about being. So being present, being in life, not just doing things, not just checking things off, and and I think you've been speaking to that. That we are spiritual beings, that we have to be present. So my question is, and I think you answered this to an extent, but is there something else to say about, how are you being in life versus just doing things in life? How would you describe that or deepen our conversation?
Well, that's a very profound question, though. I think, for example, I just can speak just from my personal experience, is that you need to live long enough so that you can go look back and see how time and life experiences and the whole world has changed you. And then, but with the same token, you can also look back and see how you, with your presence and your love and your care, have changed the world. So to me, something that I found very helpful is that the day that I go to work, and if I make a child smile and the child gives me a hug, I'm happy. Mission accomplished. One single being has been able to engage me, and I've given him or her my love, unconditional love. And it's amazing. It's amazing because sometimes I tell my wife when I go to work, it's just my place of work right now is a place of relationships. And that go from security to kindergarten. I don't discriminate. So I love to go to kindergarten classroom and talk to the little ones. They are so much fun, man. They are really amazing. They are beautiful creatures, beautiful beings. And I can see, for example, how innocent they are, how trustworthy, and how receptive they are when somebody offers them kindness or something beautiful. And somebody tells them, you are a wonderful human being. You are here because your family is so proud that you're attending kindergarten.
Yes.
And just, to share with a child something like that. Right. Here you have this old guy talking to a 5-year-old about, I wish that I had that in my life. Somebody coming into my classroom and telling me, a different grade though, I think I've been necessarily, but I think that we need to hear that. I think that, yes, the teaching is great, but you also have to see the person. Because that person is a small spirit that is forming, is developing. And then that, regardless of the circumstances, whether you are extremely poor and there's trauma in the family, you're still a very precious person. You have been given the gift of life. And then what we need to do is to protect that life, to allow it to blossom with all the grace that the world had to offer.
Yes.
So when I see a kid, that's the potential that I see within and outside. because it's so unique,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I say a kid under a lot of stress, I always stop and talk to the child.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I do, for example, when I work, where I work, is that adults in school has a way of talking to kids that, for the most part, and I understand it, right? You have to follow the rule, you have to behave, you have to do this, you have to do that. There's always this expectation that, you know, you have to manage yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But not everybody can do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some kids have different conditions that in some way make it very challenging to behave. So one of the things that I learned, I've been doing this for years, that when somebody's doing something, instead of saying to the kid what's wrong, my question is, I'm curious about that.
Mm.
For example, if I see a kid running, a kindergarten or first grade or second or third grade, the first thing that I look at are the sneakers.
Mm-hmm.
And I say to the kid, those sneakers are special.
Mm.
That's something that immediately catches their attention.
Mm.
And it depends. If it's a first grade, I said, I'm going to put you to the test. I want to see how fast you are. And then I take them to a space where they can run.
Right,
And they
right.
do run.
Wow.
And they get tired.
Wow.
So I was ready to go to the classroom. Yeah. That was it. That's intervention right there.
Right, right. So you rephrasing this or you changing the world that is not a bad world. You know, it's full of rules. It's full of demands on a young person, and you notice them. So they stop in their tracks, right? You notice them, what they're doing, what they're wearing, how they are.
So another one that I have is kids have lockers in the school, right, in the American school. And sometimes when I see somebody kicking a locker for whatever reason, of course that I know there's something happening. But then I go and ask the kid, are you taking karate classes or lessons? They know immediately where I'm going with this. And they start laughing. You know? And I say, I'm so glad that I'm not in your classroom because I'm not going to be messing with you.
Yes,
so
wow.
Show me some move. And they go, whoa, whoa. That's
wow. You're showing them respect. You're showing them
whatever
presence,
was there, whatever was there for the kicking, I don't care about that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you are larger than that. You're bigger than that. You're more beautiful than that. So that's the whole thing, though. That is not necessarily the behavior. Find the kid. Find the kid.
Find the kid under or next to the behavior.
Right, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, you should be ashamed.
All
You're
that,
destroying school property.
Yeah.
You're
Right.
being bad.
Yeah.
You're being a naughty person.
So sometimes, I would love to go to the classroom and I would say to the teachers, ask the kid to show you their intelligent self. Imagine that the learning becomes a challenge. It's not you're a passive recipient or somebody instructing you like this, day in and day out. No, invite them to participate. Allow them to unleash their curiosity and see what happens. So, I mean, that's where I am right now, beginning to realize. Although I've been using this for a lot of time, but, well, not a lot of time, a lot of years, but but now I have a better understanding that this is part of the package, and the package is the whole kid. The kid have bad days, good days, but in essence, he's a good kid because he or she keeps coming to school. There's a joke, I want to share this with you, that I do with kindergartners. At the school lunches before around 8 to 8:20. Right. If I found a kid having a bad day or something like the kid is upset about, then I go over and say, don't tell me. That breakfast, right? What about pancake for tomorrow? I said, that's it. Although I know they don't serve pancakes. Yes. That was it. I got a smile with the kid.
Wow.
So but that's it. That's all. They just need a little something to cross that corner and find the humor that they have.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so simple and so profound. So profound to notice that. Do you are all your relationships also with your family, friends, kind of based in this curiosity, in this in being intrigued about the spirit of the person?
Part of that, but it's also a profound sense of appreciation. I appreciate that these people are in my life. I have a good friend, and we walk, and I really value. I mean, he and his wives are like my extended family. We've been friends for many years.
Wow.
And this profound sense of appreciation, though, that not only that they are my friend, but they are in my life.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
value them. I honor them. I respect them. So I think that's something that is beautiful in terms of experiencing your friendship. I don't have too many friends, but the very few that I have a very sort of like a beautiful relationship.
Deep relationship.
Yeah, there's something about this that really I enjoy, and I see them and they see me, and we know each other, and this good friend is a very spiritual person, and I celebrate that.
Beautiful.
That he's my friend, and we do things together.
Beautiful.
Really.
So we're coming towards the end of the interview. I still have a couple of questions. So how do you feel about aging? We did touch on that a little bit.
Yeah.
And what teaching would you like to share with your younger audience members about the times we're living in and how to survive and how to make sure your spirit survives in this reality?
Well, I had to tell you this. Let me start by saying that next month I'll be 70.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And sometimes I say to myself, wow, how do you manage to live to 70?
Yes. A young 72.
Oh, really?
No, I said a young 70. You are a young 70.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So the idea of 70, I'm looking forward to it. I have to be honest with you. I might sound a little bit different or crazy, but I'm looking forward to old age.
Yes.
No,
I understand.
Yeah. And you know what? I think in part it's because I don't have the pressure of doing. I did what I needed to do when I was younger. I have, I did what a lot of people in the society do. I worked and, put my money away from Social Security, Medicare, and retirement. So I done that.
Right.
So to me, the old age is probably an age of honing or working on something that you really want to do. I'm beginning to learn to take it easy. There's a kind of nice concept, although, probably like too many people, I am a workaholic. I work, but now I'm beginning to loosen up a little bit, in terms
and enjoy the spaciousness of
right.
your life.
Exactly, yeah. Pay attention to the little things.
Yes.
That gives me joy and something like that. That reminds me that I'm here, that I'm present.
Wow, that's beautiful.
So in terms of messages for the new generation, these are very difficult times. Compared to the time that you and I...
Right, and after this election too.
Oh, gosh.
Especially.
So, one thing that, I don't know if it's possible, but is to the young generation is to find something. Find your true self and pay attention to whatever it is that your true self wants to do. So allow that beauty that surrounds you to become real, to become tangible. And do it with a lot of love and kindness. No one is the enemy. Even if people who don't agree with you, they also have dreams and they also have a heart. And they also, despite the ugliness, have the capacity to love. So trying to face the world and go into the world with the idea, as the Buddhist people talk about, is that we are one because we are interconnected.
Right.
So if I remove your skin, I found an anatomy, a body that doesn't have a name. It's body. Is if you believe in the Creator, so that's the grace of the Creator. You believe in God. So it's not something that divisiveness. And we are right now. We've been experiencing divisiveness for a long time. It's not, it's not the answer. That's not the answer. It's not sustainable. So we need to come together and to learn to forgive in order to be forgiven. And we need to love in order to have love back to us as a way of reciprocity. So I am big in reciprocity and relationships. And I also think that everybody had the right of being happy,
Mm-hmm.
healthy, and in love.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's beautiful.
Yeah, so that's why
That's beautiful.
yeah.
Now, as far as the find yourself, like nowadays, often there's this expression, I want to be my best self. And is that the same as finding your true self, or is that something else? What do you think?
Can you go to a store and buy a best self pillow? I mean, pill. Can you go to a store and buy gene for the best self of your body?
No.
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 No, it's your whole self.
Right. It's the whole self, and the whole self doesn't have categories about poor, bad, medium, size. No. It's the cell intact. So the cell, that cell had the ability to adapt to whatever environmental circumstances you face. But in essence, it's something that guides you. And that cell has members, and you can see that as a circle, or you can see that as a tree with different branches, and each one of them has something to do with your life and the environment where your life grows and develops and blossoms.
Beautiful.
So
That's
that,
beautiful.
yeah.
Wow. This has been so amazing, and that you really created an atmosphere, and the way you speak and teach is really very much forcing me in a positive way to pay attention and to truly listen, not, because what you're saying, it has the deeper and even deeper undercurrents and resonates deeper and deeper. So it really made me listen carefully, and I'm so grateful. And I have the last question. If there's anything else you would like to add that maybe I didn't ask yet.
No. I think this was a really David White talking about the beautiful conversation, and I always go when I talk to people and I think about the beautiful conversation, because I think that if we listen to each other carefully, if we pay attention practically, then we can hear it, we can see it, we can sense it, right?
So true.
And it had the potential of becoming tangible, that you can do something with it. That's what I like so much poetry, in the sense that the poet had this incredible ability to make beauty out of nothing. Oh,
Sure,
you're right.
Sure, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And in this hour, we or whatever it was, 45 minutes, hour, we were able to touch on things that in many, that we can't often reach when we're just having a conversation at dinner, casual conversation, catching friends or people in our lives, upon our lives, which is important too. But, you could have 10 conversations and you just know, okay, what the person is doing, how they're feeling, but you never come to this intangible world that I think have been successful.
Okay.
Touching today, right?
Yeah, no. It was a great conversation. You in some way you kind of helped me to go back and forth with a smile.
Thank you so much.
Because I my thing is that sometimes people can go back and they come back crying.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's good too sometimes. But yeah, we were laughing quite a bit.
So I feel lucky that this journey with you was really. It was beautiful. It was tender, and it was sweet.
Thank you.
We spoke from a place of peace.
Thank you so much, and you brought that with you, and I appreciate you and the conversation so much. Thank you, Carlos.
You're welcome, my friend. You're welcome.
Thank
Take care. Okay.